Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Wednesday, August 26th, 2026, and I am so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll jump right in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. Thanks so much for being back with me here on the channel. And thank you to everybody supporting monthly. It's more crucial now than ever as this shoestring budget is just squeaking along. So thank you so much for your monthly support and your intermittent support. I'm so appreciative. We'll put on the glasses because, of course, I think the first thing I'm just going to jump right into the meat. No pun intended here, with the awful news about this Argentinian mystery beef, right? And there's been all this news coming out of the beef coming from Argentina, of which Trump has supposedly given the okay to Brooke Rollins and the FDA, et cetera, to do with this 300 tons, 300,000, excuse me, 300 tons. Okay. 300 tons is a lot. Okay, that's, a lot of beef. And so what's going on here is they're finding out that China had rejected similar beef, had basically sent it back to Argentina, but supposedly also Brazil and Uruguay are in this grouping of where this beef came from that was contaminated, meaning injected with a basically life-threatening antibiotic. Like if it's an antibiotic, what it's supposed to kill is basically you. You have to wonder if the cows actually died from it, okay, because it is so toxic. And this is what's called chloramphenicol, and we're going to get into the dangers of it in a moment. But what's happening here is they're finding out that this, help the people get some hamburger situation to basically get some cheap beef in. And of course, the Association of American Ranchers is just absolutely horrified and disgusted by this. But I can understand the reasoning behind it. But now it's looking like this same beef is contaminated with this chloramphenicol. And it's very questionable. It's not just Argentina. It looks like it's Brazil and Uruguay as well. And why would you make any deals, especially with Brazil, okay, with Lula? Why would you have any beef coming from Brazil? But of course, we know Brazil owns one of the biggest meat packing industries, companies, corporations. One of the big four that basically is destroying ranching in this country. And so when we look at this, we have China already rejecting 22 tons of this back in March, so 3+ months ago. They already rejected 22 tons of this similar beef. And then also Australia has banned it. And this is chloramphenicol. And this antibiotic is very, very toxic. And we had 30,000 pounds of it that was sold to Texas and Florida, very red states, very interesting, out of a Miami-based company, also did a recall on this beef from Argentina. Okay, and so we have Malay and we have Melikovsky, right? He has the same name as Netanyahu's original name, Melikovsky. And you have to wonder if this is just a biowarfare attack through the meat on America. And Brooke Rollins has a lot to answer for here. She's doing kind of a miserable job. You get all these great things that happen once in a while, like, oh, whole milk coming to the schools, all of this, recent, showing up with RFK Jr. on different videos and shows announcing what they're doing for schools, lunches and this kind of thing, which is great. It absolutely is. So many great things. But Brooke Rollins is in the hot seat for a lot of things. She also she was letting through the Mexican beef that we knew had the screw worms in it, and let that keep going on for quite a long time, destroying Texas herds, okay, with this Mexican beef. And now just recently, I believe, also lifted the ban on Mexican beef as well. And so we're getting just, if it's the screw worms, just literally becoming this, life-threatening bacteria in your body that just eats eats your everything, and kills you, or if it is the chloramphenicol. And so what is the chloramphenicol? This is so horrifying, but it is absolutely massively toxic. And so what it does, it can cause permanent bone marrow damage. Permanent bone marrow damage. Okay. This is like a chemotherapy level, okay, situation, and beyond, where it completely stops your bone marrow, can completely stop producing red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, meaning it kills your bone marrow, okay, which means it kills you, okay. And it's absolutely deadly to infants and babies, absolutely, and especially in young kids. The undeveloped livers can't break down this antibiotic. I mean, it means it anti-life, right? It's an antibiotic, but it basically, with everybody's livers, would be overtaxed by it. It can cause total mitochondrial failure. And I've talked so much on this channel about mitochondria, especially when we're talking about, of course, the C60 Evo that cleans out your mitochondria, and my great sponsor. That's why these things are so important. But your mitochondrial failure, okay, and we're seeing just across the board so many massive mitochondrial dysfunctions going on, and we can know how it got into the body. But basically, it can also cause optic neuritis, meaning it kills your optic nerve, and you get blurred vision and slowly lose your eyesight. Also, peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy is when you basically, your hands and feet start going weak and numb and don't function, and leads to all kinds of central nervous system degenerative diseases like MS and all of these kind of things. And yes, your central nervous system, it's toxic to your entire central nervous system. And so I think Brooke Rollins has some splaining to do here. Not only is she, giving money through the USDA to give funding of our taxpayer dollars to halal butchering facilities, like in the flagship one in small town Maine, called Five Pillars, right? Like the Five Pillars of Islam. She's letting all these things go through, and the FDA was secretly letting this go through as well. And so we're being harmed, and this also, of course, is something that blows back, with our deaths and our harm by eating this, which I can't eat because of the alpha gal. Anyway, so I'm good. But basically, this is disgusting, and this is also an assault on the nation, and people are executing this battle against us. And so I wanted to let you know, be very, very, very careful. That's why we support our local ranchers, our local farmers, and that you buy local, you support local, you form a co-op if one doesn't exist already with your local farmers and ranchers. And by ranchers, I mean, it doesn't have to be massive. This is your area within a few hundred miles where people are, having cattle and having sheep and other animals, right? And even your local chickens, etc. And so this is why it's so important to go local, know the people you're buying your meat from. And so I wanted to absolutely put that on the radar as more comes out as to, is this being stopped? Is it being recalled? Trump's been very defensive about it in his comments. So it's very interesting that something seems dodgy here all around. And when something's bad, I will call it out. And that's what I'm calling out here. So avoid the poison beef. And so, okay, let's go on from there. Tomorrow I'm going to get into Russia is just opening up its own CERN, just a small thing. Its own CERN that it had to wait 2 years on, a $600 million project, because it couldn't get the parts through the sanctions and everything. So it had to, what? Manufacture them themselves. And they have done so, which they do so with so much else, including massive organic farming revolution there in Russia. But basically, this electron collider is going to be just a massive thing, and I will get into it tomorrow more. I just wanted to kind of let you know what's happening there. And it's not dedicated to, the Hindu god of death. Okay, in Russia, actually has some pretty incredible aspects of what it's capable of when it's not bent on, space-time black hole destruction. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow. I did also want to mention that Natalie G. Winters has been breaking some great stories. Everything CCP, if you go to Natalie G. Winters on Substack, you have to follow her. But today she came out with this incredible stories about how the Girl Scouts is now allowing for there to be mosque-based troops. Okay, so you can have your Girl Scout troops that is sponsored by a mosque, and they are now having badges and patches in the Girl Scouts, all the Girl Scouts, okay, that have to do with experiencing Islam, okay, and that it's happening in the Boy Scouts too. And so it's very, very awful. They have patches for share Ramadan with a friend for the actual Muslim girls. These experiencing Islam badges where you go and they have hijab photo booths and all of these lovely, fantastic things. And it makes me think of John Cleese, the great comedian, Monty Python, et cetera, et cetera. He put on X, like, I don't know, a couple months, but like a month ago maybe, and he said, I'm not a national supremacist. I am a cultural supremacist. He said, I'm a cultural supremacist, and he said, if a culture condones stoning, if it condones wife beating as discipline, and it condones pedophilia, then it's a crappy culture. And some cultures are better than others. It's the lie of multiculturalism. It's the lie of multi-ethnicity in a country of people of many, many ethnic backgrounds is not the same as multicultural. And so very interesting there. And so Josh Hawley is opening up a investigation into the flock surveillance system, and he's opening a congressional investigation into this. So that's great. We hope it won't just be more, bravado and words, but actually where we can get more evidence about what's going on with Flock, because it's everywhere, and they have now partnered with Uber and Lyft. Well, Nexar. Nexar is the dash cam company for Uber and Lyft, where now the Flock database will also be collecting all of the dash cam license plate recording. But it's not just that. It is all of the data that they are recording, including biometrics. They are recording all of this, and now even when you take an Uber or Lyft, you will know that you are contributing to this flock surveillance situation. And so let's hope that we'll watch that as it develops. I'm sure it will be very interesting to see how that goes. And so we had also, of course, today it's so momentous. It's so incredible. We have the Meta, settlement. Oh, it took 3 days, right? I mean, it's so ridiculous for like a tenth of what it was supposed to be monetarily. They settled for I think it's 16.7 billion, 16.68 billion, which is a drop in the bucket for Meta, which of course is Facebook, Instagram, etc., and has been responsible for everything from the 2020 election steal for entertainment purposes only, the COVID biowarfare rollout propaganda, the deplatforming of everybody who talks about anything, including the two things I just mentioned, and just the harm, the suicides, the absolute entrainment and brain drain of our youth, the creation of a self obsessed culture, a absolute just total diminishment of brain capacity and social skills, and that is Meta. And so they get off for 16.68 billion after a few days, right before Zuckerberg is supposed to go and testify, of course, and also without any evidence, okay, being produced. So this plea, this little settlement is them coming out with admitting no harm done, no culpability at all whatsoever, just like TikTok a few days ago. I'm going to talk about that. No harm done, is the reality. Okay, they aren't responsible for the harm. They're just paying some money to make it go away. And this is, of course, 29 states that had claims in this. It resolves all of them, right? California gets $1 billion. And it's just a total whitewash, but also to bring out surveillance tools is its main mechanism, but also to create a huge slush fund, because this money will not be going to the families of the children who committed suicide. This money will be going into political organizations, okay? And I'm going to be watching as it comes clear where this money will be going. We saw with TikTok, they got to add it to the slush fund for the campaigns of, a lot of this will go to Democrats, of NGOs before the midterms, okay? And TikTok had something like 400 million, which is interesting because it's the same amount as Trump's MAGA Inc. PAC. But this had to do with the Barack Obama slush fund creation of when these big federal cases are closed. Oh, it takes my picture when I say Barack Obama. That they created this sideline of creating this slush fund that if they can settle these cases and have them bypass Congress, I'm going to tell you about that in a second. But let me continue here with the Meta settlement, which is just disgusting in my opinion. And on the news, it's all, oh, it's a landmark, it's amazing. Literally, I got away with 1/10 of what they would have owed with, or 1/11th, 12th of 1.4 trillion, okay, is what they should be paying out. But basically, we know that that was never going to happen. And so this is, we've got Kentucky in there. We'll see what the Russell Coleman, the AG of Kentucky, he's so pleased. This is landmark. This is amazing. That anybody would be pleased with this is ridiculous. 3 days, no evidence, no harm admitted. So these are the new digital surveillance rules that come out of it. And this is, of course, they're going to say that kids can't use Facebook, Instagram, whatever, between 12 p.m., midnight, and 6 a.m. when kids are in bed. Okay. And of course, it's going to be digital ID verification because they're going to have user verification. So it is the goose step into digital ID and get them when they're young so they grow up in their digital ID. And of course, they're going to do such amazing things like tone down the public liking and disliking on posts. Wow, that's a big one. That's a tough one. And they're going to alter the algorithms, they say, to be more positive material. Okay. It's just really ridiculous. And it's just like a slap in the face, basically. As you know, the thing here is, okay, it's all us. It's not me because I don't do social media, but it is people's addiction to social media. It is parents' situations with not being able to function in their own lives without it, and therefore allowing their kids to do it. It is the dumbing down of the world, and it is the participation and everything that is destroying society that we all are responsible for. And everybody wants to act victimized, and the children, of course, are. But the adults aren't, okay? The adults are not. This is where it gets into your sovereignty, your decision making, your ability, okay, to be truly just not arrested development, to be a grown adult, and what it means to separate from the noise of social media, video, compulsion, all of it. And so that's the situation. There's no way we'll ever fight AI. Bill Gates is now coming out and warning everybody about AI. Bill Gates is literally the threat. Like, he is the poison beef. He is the jabs. He's like everything evil, and he's coming out and saying AI and robotics, it's going to kill us. Yeah, right. And so very interesting there. So moving from there over back to TikTok, so we can kind of look where this money's actually going to go. And I think it's going to go into the pockets of these groups that, of course, want to harm us. And so TikTok, we had this settlement just go through. Very, they're all focused on Meta, right? Just like with the Clancy trial and the murder of the kids, so awful back in 2023, that now is all the most important thing out there, and creating more culture war and all this baloney. Okay, baloney. We know why she's nuts. It's the jabs. Okay, and that's just my opinion in a nutshell. Okay, and we're seeing it all over, and it's disgusting. It's awful, and we pray for those wonderful children. And so TikTok, slush fund, Barack Obama. And this had to do with him creating this situation where there was federal cases like this settled. And it's very interesting that the antitrust woman, what was her name? She was fantastic at antitrust. She was basically run out of the DOJ. We have Ed Martin gone now. What was her name? Irish woman, is fantastic. She quit, okay, because she wouldn't play along with stuff like this. And very interestingly, Pam Bondi tried to cancel this, tried to get this gone. And that happened about 6 weeks before she was fired. And so TikTok has this $400 million settlement. And of course, TikTok is owned by Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle, who owns CBS. The whole FTX thing with his daughter, with Sam Bankman-Fried and Tether and all of it. And it's also owned nearly 20% by the CCP still. And just recently, I think it was last week, we had the White House announce that it's now okay, even though the CCP owns 20%, to have government officials, people working in the federal government, can now put TikTok app back on their phone. Why? That seems crazy. And so, anywho's the slush fund. This is what Barack Obama created, where there's federal cases that are dealt with in this way, just like what happened with TikTok, and it's why we need to look into what's happening with how Meta gets to supposedly pay for this $17 billion. Well, instead of it being a non-deductible federal penalty and fine, non-deductible federal penalty and fine on TikTok, instead of it being that, what TikTok is getting to be able to do is pay this $400 million as tax deduction to NGOs. Okay. And this means, okay, they get to pay it as a tax deduction to different NGOs. That's just like giving your money, like the National Fraud Task Force can go after everything. There was just like 13 billion in federal fraud contracts discovered the other day. There's always more and more billions of all the fraud, everything. Here's some money. Here's some money to come and harm the country. Okay. And Barack Obama created this, of course, for the destruction of America machine back before he left office. And then we did have the first AG Sessions actually did eliminate this. Okay, and then Merrick Garland put it back in 2022. Okay, and so then you had Bondi going in trying to get rid of this slush fund. So it basically means that if we can settle federal cases where it can be deemed that this can be done as a tax deduction, then all this money can just be stolen. Nothing goes to the victims, nothing goes anywhere. And basically, it's also bypasses Congress to avoid all legal scrutiny, okay? And who gets the money are not public record. And also, none of those harmed, as I said, will be compensated. And this is that whole dismissed without prejudice situation. And so we're seeing this happen again here with Meta, no culpability. And we have to see what the terms are of, is it going to be tax deduction of 17 billion, which it's basically like a gift. It's basically a gift. Here's your tax deduction. Sick. It's sick and disgusting. So I'm going to be looking deeper into that and seeing what we can find out for you. And I will come back with that hopefully tomorrow. Okay. And so what else do we have here? We have, of course, on the anniversary here, the 5th anniversary, Abbeygate, and of course the deaths of the Marines and other service people on that day. We're, and the Pentagon announced that they have just found new highly classified documents about the Afghanistan withdrawal, and so that is going to be coming out. What those, what they glean from that, if they're highly classified, I don't think we'll be hearing exactly what's in there. But I can imagine that you'll have your Catherine Herridges and others giving us some deep information on this. And so that's pretty big deal. As we're seeing here, of course, we had the 35th anniversary of Ukraine's independence the other day, and Trump sent no one officially. And of course, no senators were willing to risk it and go, right? And so Andy Burnham goes from the UK, the temporary prime minister, Andy Burnham. He goes, and who goes from our, from this country? Mike Pence, right? Mike Pence, I'm sure, going to deliver some kind of message with Keith Kellogg. Okay, so Mike Pence was sent there, probably wearing his bulletproof vests and etc. But anyway, he goes, and all these EU leaders going, and Pence, full Bushite neocon lap boy, going to do his what he's commanded to do with Keith Kellogg, who was full Ukraine the whole way. As we're seeing again this massive calls, we have Dan Ratcliffe going to Moscow yesterday. This is after a stop by in Latvia on the 23rd. And so we're having these deep, Trump put out that truth the other day, and it said, "Have you been loyal?" Right, with a picture of Trump, and you get influencers out there, your Alex Joneses, and that he's talking to them, and it's like, no, Trump is not talking to you or Tucker Carlson or anybody. He's talking to NATO. Okay, he's talking to NATO with all of these documents, the letters, the loyalty test. Is NATO loyal? He already knows the answer, that they're not, especially the UK, and especially Germany, etc. And so basically, this has to do with Ratcliffe going there. This is as Russia is ready for basically the final, onslaught on Ukraine at their 35th anniversary, and you have all of this interwoven, of course, with what's going down with the reconfiguring of world energy. And so I'll get into Ratcliffe in a moment, but I did want to just mention that Marco Rubio yesterday, this is all interconnected, it's why I'm tying it together, is that he announced that Syria is no longer designated a terrorist threat. Syria. This is like 20 years, what is it? 18, I don't know. But after Operation Sycamore Timber to oust Assad, who was recently, of course, designated, sentenced to death by Syria, but he's in exile in Russia, and Syria and Russia just made a huge agreement to have Russia be able to use Mediterranean warm water ports plus military access. And so this is all happening, and now we've got a country run by an ex-Gitmo prisoner, Al-Qaeda jihadist who has killed Americans, the president and ally, the president of Syria and ally, El-Jawali, al-Sarraj, whatever his name is. And so we've got this all going down at the same time as we have Ratcliffe heading to Moscow and is arriving in a big C-17 military plane, no hiding there. And so not discreet, and moving through Latvia. And Latvia, of course, is kind of the new, we want to be the new military base to keep the war going. We want NATO to back us. We want NATO to fund us, to build weapons. And what we had Andy Burnham saying at the 35th anniversary, where they also gave Elon Musk the Order of Freedom medal, right? He's joining the Nazis who got it, Poland and Romania, like throwing it back. But we've got Elon Musk now receiving the Order of Freedom medal from the Nazi regime of Ukraine, right? That is under total duress and about to collapse. And yeah, this is for Starlink, of course, supply and access. But let me just see they're going to, what Andy Burnham is saying is that the UK will sell the technology licenses after Trump basically refused the Patriots after dangling that. He's saying they'll sell the tech license to Ukraine to build Storm Shadow missiles, but they have nowhere to build them. Russia has destroyed everything. Okay, there's nothing left where they can build these things. And so Latvia is the one that's like us. We have a big threat. Russia's about to invade Europe. We need, Carney, if he's not too busy attacking the U.S. We need him and his bank and the resiliency bank, the military bank, to come over here and give us tons and tons of money. But what we have from Belgium and Euroclear is they have come out and said, we will not get behind this seizing of the 210 billion euros held in Euroclear, seized Russian assets to be basically, taken, liquidated, given to Ukraine for the continuation of this war. We won't do it. Euroclear will not present itself that way to be set up as a nation that does this, as an entity that does that. And Belgium and the prime minister is saying, and neither will we as a nation put ourselves in that kind of jeopardy and be the target of those assets being liquidated. And so this is all going down as we're watching all of this, and Ratcliffe going to Moscow. And so he's meeting with his guy that is the same as him, CIA Ratcliffe, right? We've got John Ratcliffe. He is meeting with Sergei Narishkin, who is the SVR chief, which is his counterpart in the Kremlin. And basically, he has said, we're in regular contact. And so he stops in Latvia for, they were able to stop the false flag that was going to be happening to do with Belarus and the Sulwaki Gap, where we had all of those, it was supposed to be Spiderweb 2.0, but all those drones and missiles were confiscated by the Russians. And so what we're looking at is, this unprecedented since back to Bill Burns back in 21, CIA director, to have Ratcliffe go there. And so basically you had Ukraine was asked to stop their attacks on Moscow and St. Petersburg for a while Ratcliffe was traveling. And so this Riga, Latvia, what did he tell them? And the attempt here is to have a NATO attack, right? A NATO false flag that leads to a Russian attack. And Trump does not want this, and nobody wants this. Nobody wants any Russian attacks on any NATO bases, but they are crying for it. They are constantly saying, hey, we're going to build missiles for Ukraine here. We're going to build missiles for Ukraine here. Hi, bro, right up your butt on your border, getting closer and closer. And so we'll see what comes out of this Ratcliffe meeting. But the buzz is that it had to do with basically, ensuring that the U.S. obviously is not going to go Article 5, and they're not going to, condone any kind of attacks that might be coming based out of these, these Eastern Bloc countries by the EU and certainly UK. And so it's very interesting too, because of Burnham, just being selected and dumped in there, very much like Mark Carney. And so let's see. I was going to get into Carney, but I think I might leave it there. I know it's a shorty tonight, but it's all the time I have. I think we might be hearing as soon as tomorrow about the new White House press secretary. So that'll be interesting. If that comes out tomorrow, I will certainly let you know. And yeah, I'm going to keep it short tonight. Sorry that it's a bit short, but that's the time I have. So thanks so much for watching. And if you find that this video was helpful and that it gave you new perspective or expanded perspective, and you want to support the channel, there's ways to do so below. Greatly appreciated. Right now, this channel is being compensated for about what would fairly be maybe enough to support one video a week. But 3 or 4 is, it's a labor of love, but it is massively underwater. So if you've held out, but you find the channel valuable and you can afford it, then please do consider supporting. Anything is appreciated. And of course, my fantastic sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. People who support the channel get 15% off, different link and code sent to you. And this, as we talked about in the beginning, mitochondria destroyed by chemicals and toxins that get stuffed in your foods or into your body or rain down from the skies. This incredible product gets into your mitochondria, including your neurons, and it cleans it out. It cleans the garbage out, and it's a trooper. It stays in your body working for 7 days. It's just an amazing product. This is the highest concentrate and the purest that can call itself ESS60, form of carbon-60, meaning human grade, devoid of any contaminants, solvents, etc. And the processing is so pure. Incredible olive oil. This has the highest concentration. The olive oil comes from Tunisia, from multiple generations of this small Tunisian olive farm. And of course, we know what olives do for the health. I'm a huge fan of olive leaf extract as well, but that's an aside. This product keeps me going. It has helped me so much as I face all the different health things that get thrown at me, especially doing this work. And so thanks so much for watching. Check out my fantastic sponsor, and you are free, and I will see you tomorrow.